Hi everyone, good evening. So as promised, to those that couldn't make it to Shul on Shabbat, that I would record the GPS through Bereishit. So this is the talk, the class that I gave this past Shabbat on the 12th of November, and I'm recording it here as it was given in Shul. This lecture series is the GPS through Bereishit. And we're looking at relationships through the lens of our patriarchs and matriarchs. And this is session 1. I am so excited to delve into the book of Bereishit with you and learn together about our history and the lessons that have been shared for us to learn from. We know that every word, every letter, every sound in the Torah, every dot in the Torah is measured and accounted for. There's nothing extra. And actually, when you look at the text, it actually reads like a shorthand, meaning that reading just from the Torah, we will not be able to get the full understanding or the full story or the full message that is being conveyed to us. Reading it literally, like just literally, will leave us with no accurate story. For example, we all know later on in one of the sedras that comes in one of the following books, when the verse reads literally about an eye for an eye, and we were to take it literally, imagine that I was just reading the text without Rashi, without the sages, I would say an eye for an eye. Many of us, regrettably to say, would be walking around with one eye. But when we explore this verse through the wisdom of our sages that have come before us, and the one that I'm going to use mainly, and the one that I'm going to explore, and the one that we learn always first. So whenever we talk about Chumash, when we learn Chumash, it's Chumash Rashi. We learn Chumash with Rashi. When we look at Rashi, and then many sages that follow his interpretations, we get a full understanding of what this means. So absolutely, this does not mean anything physical. Rather, it's about looking at the value of things. So really reading the Torah without looking at Rashi at least, who has written a full commentary on the Torah in his special script, we will not get a full story or message of what the Torah is trying to convey to us. So the sages are taking the shorthand and giving us the full text. I have decided when reading through the beautiful psukim of Bereishit, to bring along my therapeutic model that I've kind of developed from all an eclectic bunch of theories, and that is my way of working. And I have looked at Torah sources to enrich my development of the theory that I have created and that I work with. So the way I think systemically about families is through the lens of the I, the us, and the we. So the I is self, you can understand that. It's looking at me, what's going on internally with all my parts, with myself. Then we look at the us, and I'm going to explain it linear, but obviously it's not a linear process. It's a much more circular process. So we look at the us, and the us is like, the way I look at it is like a partner relationship. So me in relation to my husband, or a husband in relation to his wife. And then looking at the we, which is then, if I look at it through a triangle, which I usually look at through, so it's the us, and then the we is looking at the children and the extended family. But mainly it's us in relationship to our couple relationship, and then us in relationship to our family. But obviously there can be an interplay, and there can be different relationships in that mix. That's just kind of the format that I'm using for this lecture series. So what does it mean really? That at different times I will need to focus on the relationship I have with myself, like what's going on internally with me, what's going on with my partner, what's going on with me and my partner and my children. So again, just think of the triangle, and then it's kind of easier to hold on to this idea. But I think it's a very simple idea, and that you will all agree with me that at different times, and sometimes at the same time, we will be engaged in all these. It's not as clear, it's like a mush. But the more awareness, the more understanding I can have of these different relationships, the better we can show up for them. So today's series, I have chosen to focus on the I, because I'm looking at the creation of man. And then hopefully we'll move on and bring in more of the us and more of the we. So I am often looking for evidence-based practice, meaning theories that have been tested. Again, in therapy, it's hard to get scientific research, but you can get lots of evidence-based research. And it just means that the theories have been tested and they have been proven to work. And for me, personally, there's nothing more satisfying than to find confirmation in our Torah on my way of thinking and on my way of working. As you've heard me say before, the Torah is our Torat Chaim. The Torah is what gives us life. And everything is in our Torah. So let's start with creation and the development of the human, the I, and what we learn about our potential. And in the weeks to follow, we will learn about the different potentials through the stories that come up in the Setra. They are beyond, especially the book of Bereishit, the relationships that come up between husband and wives, between siblings, between wider families, the cousins. If you think of Lot, if you think of the tribes, if you think of Hagar and her son, so you have the whole dynamics of blended families. They are beyond captivating, and they are hopeful, and they really give us a blueprint for any issue that we can encounter in our times. Just fascinating how timeless these messages are. So what are we? And what is our capacity? So we are first introduced to man in Bereishit Aleph, which means in the first chapter. And we're looking at verse 26. And I'm going to read it in the Chumash, and then I'll translate it. So the verse reads, Vayomer Elokim, Naaseh Adam, Betzalmenu, Kitmutenu, V'yirdu, Bitgat hayam ube'of hashamayim ubabehema ubechol haaretz ubechol haremes haromes al haaretz. And Hashem said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, that they shall rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the sky, and over the animal, actually over the whole earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. Yes, I have chosen to start our series with a verse that can really and should really leave us pondering. Let us make man in our likeness, in our image. The second question that's raised on this verse, and I think it's Rashi again, but I'm not sure who raises this question. But when you read through the verses, that question comes up. After every creation, Hashem says Kitov. Even on Tuesday, he says Pamayim Kitov. Twice it's good. That's why traditionally so many marriages take place on a Tuesday. Yet when we come to day 6 and he creates man, there's no Kitov. Wonder, what are we to learn from that? So going back to our verse, those that have joined me on the previous GPSs, but all of us that have just terminated, I know it seems like ages ago, but actually we've just come out of the months of that we've celebrated all the Chagim. And if I want to think in one sentence what we've been doing in the Chagim, we've been doing many things. But if you think of specifically Yom Kippur, in the ending of Yom Kippur, what have we been doing? We've been focusing on the oneness of Hashem. Hashem hu ha'elokim. And the Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. These were our parting words. Hashem, you are good. Hashem, you are one. These were our parting words on Yom Kippur. So what am I meant to learn from this verse? What is the lesson for me to take away? And yes, I could have chosen any other of the fascinating verses, especially this week. We spoke about the Akedah. Could have spoken about the Akedah this week, or focused on any of the other midrashim or stories that have come up. Why did I choose a verse that makes us question and ponder and think about things? Because these classes are to challenge us and to make us grow and develop and reach deep within our souls to understand our mission and our journey here on earth. I'm just going to get a recharger because I see that my computer is actually Angela is going to get me a recharger. It's in my bag. Thank you. In the office in my bag. I also wanted to use this verse to stress again the actual danger. That's really the main reason why I wanted to use this verse also. To stress the actual danger, as I mentioned before, of taking the text and reading it literally and taking meaning of our literal interpretation only. Sorry, I'm just going to plug this in. Thank you. So again, I've chosen this verse because to show you how dangerous if I were to read the text only, I'd walk away very confused. So what is the text coming to teach us? So I thought I was going to take this verse to introduce you to Rashi. Rashi on this verse that reads so differently to our beliefs is the best way to jump into the deep waters of our incredible Torah. Who's Rashi? Rashi is Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, a medieval French rabbi and author of a comprehensive commentary on the Talmud and commentary on the Torah. He was born in 1040 in Troyes in France and was married to Rivka, and had 3 famous daughters who married a complete lecture series as their spiritual role models to all of us who've come after them. And these daughters also had very famous sons whose names may be familiar to some, like Rabbeinu Tam and the Rashbam. But let's come back to our verse, Na'aseh Adam, let us make man. Rashi explains that what we learn first and foremost from this verse is Hashem's humility. And he uses a beautiful medrash to clarify understanding on the complexity of this verse. Rashi explains that although the angels did not assist in man's creation, there is room on the basis of this phrase for those that are looking to claim heresy and rebel against our beliefs and Hashem, to say that the Torah itself indicates that many gods participated in the creation of man. And yet it's really important for us to note, and Rashi stresses this a couple of times, that the verse did not refrain from writing it this way. And all of that in order to teach us proper behavior and the trait of humility. So what does Rashi mean by that? Let us go back a couple of verses and look at the grammar used for all the other creations. With all the other creations, it is written, let the earth bring forth. When it comes to the creation of man, it says, and God said to the angels that had been created on the 2nd day of the creation of the world, let us make man. So let the earth bring forth and let us make. What we learn, first of all, immediately, without doubt, is that man was created with great deliberation and wisdom. But going back to our question of let us make man, what is the Torah really coming to teach us? There were many, many different explanations that I came across, but due to time and due to favoritism, I've chosen to share the one that resonated with me most. And it's a midrash. Rashi brings this midrash, which is what is the midrash? It's the oldest commentary on the Torah. And it's a midrash on this verse. And it says, when Moshe Rabbeinu was in the Shamayim and was writing the Torah that Hashem was dictating to him, and he came to this verse, let us make, in the plural, he stopped and he said, Chas v'chalila, we cannot leave this verse like this, as it could imply that there is more, Chas v'chalila, more than one Hashem. He turned to Hashem and said, Sovereign of the universe, why do you create a text that allows heretics to maintain a plurality of divinities? And Hashem answered, Moshe, right, and whoever wishes to err will err. Instead, let them all learn from their Creator, who created all. Yet when he came to create man, he took counsel with the ministering angels. Rashi elaborates on this and says, the lesson Hashem wanted to teach us here is that one should always consult with others before embarking on major new initiatives. It's a lesson in humility. And Hashem was not deterred by the possibility that some may choose to use this verse as an implication to question Hashem's sovereignty. By the way, if you look at the next verse, it clearly says, and he created, rather than they created. Vayivra Elokim, and Hashem created. Really, there is no question here. If you look at the text carefully with all the different sources explaining the grammar and the language used. But Hashem's answer is crystal clear. Whoever wishes to err, or if I turn it on its head, meaning whoever is seeking to look for the truth, whoever is seeking the truth, whoever is looking for the truth, will find it. Yet, whoever wants to look for an excuse out, will also find it. I guess going through this verse, we encounter the first example of free choice. The first lesson in awareness when we think of the I, our sense of responsibility and ownership of the consequences of our choices. This world is my oyster, and Hashem has left me with the capacity to be the master of my choices. So in my work, I would look at ownership, responsibility, humility, and self. I love that this is the first verse alongside the creation of man. It doesn't beat around the bush, and it explains the complexity of us humans straight from the moment go. Our multi-layered dimensions that make us who we are, but more importantly, make us who we can become. So going back to my second question. My second question was in regard to what it said after all the other creations were created. It is written after all the other creations, Hashem made, He blessed, and it was tov, and it was good. Why? Why not by us? We are on the top of the ladder of creation with full capacity. We are building. We are created in God's image, with godliness, with so much potential. Yet we get no accolade of goodness. Hashem looked at us, and we're waiting for that kitov to get that self-confidence that it was good. Man was good, and yet when He looked at that finished product of man, and He gave us a nod. But there's no mention of kitov. Really hit me when reading through the text. Yet I love the simplicity of the answer. Our sages say, and I think it's Rashi, but I'm not sure, so I'm just going to say our sages say, that when all the other creations were created, they were a done deal. They were created, and there was no opportunity for development. So an apple, his whole life is not thinking, actually, should I be an orange or should I be a pear? Or actually, do I really want to be an apple? Maybe I want to be a cucumber. An apple is an apple is an apple. There's no possibility or requirement to develop further into anything else. So Hashem looked at the creation and said, kitov, it's a finished product. But man, oh man, we're a different story. There's no similar declaration of it is good because our creation is never complete. Our goal is to strive to make ourselves and our world into a better place. So at creation, it's our potential, but it's only at the end of my life. At the end of my life and at the end of all of our lives that we will be able to say, kitov. Look at this introduction to ourselves. We get to the creation of man, and right away in the first verse, we encounter the complexity of faith, of free choice, the introduction of the upper spheres, the conversation with the angels in the upper world, and directly synchronizing with the humans in the world we currently inhabit. To me, from the word go, we are reminded of our potential and of our capacity. Now you realize that I've used the noun man during my introduction of the I. So we still find ourselves on the same day, day 6, when we encounter the creation of woman. And all the sages, there's a consensus among the sages, and there isn't often a consensus on many things. You'll find different interpretations. Yet here there's a consensus that man and woman were created on the same day. There is different ideas of how man and woman were created. So let's look at some. There's so many fascinating explanations, and I've chosen just a couple to look at. So let's look at the text in the Torah, and then we'll move on to Rashi. So now we're looking at the same chapter, but we're looking at verse 27. Vayivra Elokim et ha'adam b'tzalmo b'tzelem Elokim bara oto zachar u'nekeva bara otam. So God created man in His image. In the image of God, He created him. Male and female, He created them. If we look further in the verses, it says, and He took one of his sides. So at creation, it says, Zachar u'nekeva, male and female. Now, very important to recognize that we know that all other creatures were created male and female, but it's only by the human that it is written. So what was it? Did he take one of his ribs? Let's look at what Rashi says. Rashi brings another medrash, and he explains right away on this verse, and he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us with two faces, back to back. And then for them to actualize their potential as helpmates, he divided them from the rib possibly, so they can face each other and be two individuals that come together as one whole once again. One explanation is that he created man, and then he took his rib, and from the rib he created woman. But we usually go with the explanation of Rashi, that it was a dual creation that then got possibly split from the rib, and then it became two human beings. You do find some other explanations that he created man in the morning, or he created man, and then later on in the day after man had named all the creations. And notice that they all came in pairs, even though doesn't say that at the creation. It says when Adam named them, that they came in pairs. And he cried out to Hashem and said, "What about me?" Hashem actually wanted him to ask. He didn't want to just give him a wife, a helpmate. He wanted Adam to ask, that then he put Adam to sleep and created, and he woke up with one rib less and a woman to accompany him on his journey on this planet Earth. And both explanations fit nicely. They just similar explanations with different interpretations of the verse. But no matter the different interpretations, everyone agrees, and it says in the Torah, Zachar u'nekeva bara otam. They were created male and female on the same day, on the sixth day, and you can look at Rashi. And why am I stressing this? Why am I stressing that even though all other creations were created male and female, that it's Zachar u'nekeva is only specified by man? Because I want to stress that both sexes, both male and female, were created by God in his likeness, and that's by Rabbi Hirsch. So what we do learn from this part of creation is that among all the living creatures, only man, like his creator, has been given the quality of morality, reason, and free will. He can know and love Hashem and have a spiritual connection with him, and man alone can guide his actions with reason. And it is in this sense that he explains the Rambam, that we have been created, when it says before, but Salmenu Kidmutenu, in Hashem's likeness and Hashem's image. So this is the creation of the human species, the man and the woman. In the next chapter, we will explore a bit more of the details, and with that, I will conclude my talk today. Hashem formed the man of the dust from the ground, and he blew into his nostrils the soul of life. Man became a being that is alive. And Hashem planted a garden in Eden to the east, and he placed the man that he had formed there. Man was made out of both the lower dust and the upper heavenly matter. And this is what elevates us from the animal. What elevates us? That which was blown into our nostril, into Adam's nostril. And that is the rational soul that includes the power of speech. Speech is our ability and our responsibility to help us use our intelligence in Hashem's service. Spend a lot of time exploring the creation of man to set the foundation of our capacity. From the onset, Hashem has defined our path with clarity and purpose. We were created in his image, meaning with wisdom and godliness, with all his attributes, which make our potential vast and beyond limits. He has created us equals, Zachar u'nekeva, and to be partners in a way that we help each other. We help ourselves and we help each other to develop in ways that surpass our expectation. Hashem demonstrated that at times we need to put our ego and pride aside and include others, even when it may seem like a weakness, even when it can be misinterpreted. Most importantly, the initial lesson we have been given is that we have been created with the capacity to make choices. We are being taught from the onset that it's not about the outcome. We are made from the dust and we are made from godliness. That means that there will always be a battle, being pulled to the earth and being pulled to the spirituality. And it's not the outcome that's important. What is important? Our journey to get there. What is my intention? Am I here to find the truth at all costs? Or am I here to find the excuses that give me permission to stop searching and stay within our comfort zone? Yes, this is a world that is filled with mixed messages and lots of complexities. That is by design and not by mistake. We are tasked with looking and finding the truth, and in this way create a relationship with Hashem, who desires us and made us by blowing godly life into us. What we do with this life is totally within our hands and our destiny. Detailing the story of how we were created enables us to take responsibility and ownership, as we learn through the verses, those that seek truth and those that don't. We are meant to choose our path in life. We are the captains of our ships. It's not the destination that defines us. Rather, it's the journey that we embark on. Happy traveling. See you next time.